I think it's safe to say that Resident Evil of late has had a pretty shoddy run. I mean, you just gotta look back at Operation Raccoon City, and then a little further to Resident Evil Resistance, and now Resident Evil Reverse. Oh, you thought I was gonna be talking about the mainline games? No, they're great! The remakes have been fantastic. They have been an absolute masterclass in how to go back, truss up something that was very much old gen, and bring it bang up to date, and prove a framework for future games in the remake series. Resident Evil 4 looking, dare I say, real nice, but with a lot of the bells and whistles and benefits that have been afforded thanks to the lessons they've learned from the remakes of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3. But, and now you probably know where this is going, Capcom really sucks at multiplayer. So for those of you out there unaware of what the heck Resident Evil Reverse even is, firstly, I don't blame you considering how unceremoniously this was shoved out the front door, and secondly, you're not missing much. Resident Evil Reverse is a 6-player multiplayer deathmatch add-on that was originally intended to release somewhere alongside the launch of Resident Evil Village, but delays pushed it back until fairly recently under the specter of the Resident Evil Village DLC release. In terms of content, Resident Evil Reverse gives you access to Chris Redfield, Claire Redfield, Jill Valentine, Leon S. Kennedy, Hunk, and Ada Wong. Where it gets more interesting, however, is that Reverse also allows you to transform into monsters. That can be the Fat Molded from Resident Evil 7, the Gamma, which I believe was more recently glimpsed somewhere in the sewers of the Resident Evil 3 remake. You've got Nemesis, you've got Big Papa Baker, and you've also got Tyrant. So, on the surface level, there's potential for interesting shenanigans here, and that illusion is soon broken when you just, I guess, take a look at the thing. For one, this looks pretty crappy. There's this god-awful comic book filter just slapped across it, and it just looks like a static filter, almost certainly in place to help disguise lower fidelity models, environmental assets, all of which I imagine are downgraded to just help facilitate the actual conceit in the first place, which is shocking actually when you stack it up against the likes of Resident Evil Resistance. The visuals, when you compare the two, the difference is stark. And even then, if you can get past the visuals of Resident Evil Reverse, then you've actually got to contend with the content. It's pretty threadbare. I can forgive the roster of player characters. It's reasonable, that's fine. That's something that could even be potentially expanded in future if this is a success. Spoilers, it won't be. However, in terms of what you can do with them, you've got a grand total of 1 deathmatch mode. Not even team deathmatch, just standard deathmatch, nothing else, owns your lot. You've also got a grand total of, now wait for it, 2 maps, Raccoon PD and the Baker Residence. For a while, I actually thought I was just gaslighting myself, thinking that those were the only 2 maps. I thought that maybe it was a quirk of the matchmaking, that it would just, randomly pick a map, and those 2 just seem to be the most likely candidates, because even the tutorial takes place in a different environment from those 2. They went to the effort to create that tutorial in that street location. But nope, those 2 maps are your lot. So how about the actual gameplay itself? Well, firstly, it feels slow as molasses. I mean, the average movement speed in the single player wasn't all that speedy, but that was to help build tension and facilitate the survival horror atmosphere. That kind of goes out the window when you're dealing with multiplayer, and man, it could stand to be sped up significantly. Sure, you do have access to a quick dodge, which is a much better way of getting around, so you're going to be spamming that whenever possible. And in terms of shooting, it feels weightless and ineffectual. Enemies able to tank quite a significant number of bullets, sometimes directly to the face, and that's even when they're just in human mode. When they do eventually fall down dead, however, that isn't even the end of it, because once brought down, enemies can come back as monsters. This is probably the most interesting Resident Evil Reverse actually gets. As standard, you will resurrect as a fat molded, which is inherently hilarious to begin with. You're this ungainly, fat, slovenly creature that has to now try and chase down anyone in the vicinity, and then slap them ineffectually with its noodly arms. Failing that, you may want to just hit the detonate ability, which blows you up, but even then, if you're within range, it's so weak that probably won't actually kill someone at full health. So yeah, you're probably better off just triggering that straight away so you can get right back into the game and then go about hunting down something that will make you into a more effective monster, that being the virus capsules. These you'll find littered around the map. Very important to find, very limited quantity, and having just one of them will allow you to transform into a much more effective creature. That being either the Gamma, which is a lot quicker, a lot more damaging even with its default attack. The other is Big Papa Bacon. Yeah, the big guy with the shears big enough to cut through half a cow. That is your prize, so it's well worth hunting down just one of these things. Now, if you get two, you'll then have the ability to transform into either Nemesis or Tyrant. It's a bit of a curve, it really is, and that's as far as they got. You'd think there'd be more nuance to it, but there really isn't. If you get two vials, you pretty much win for a good long while and can continue racking up points because Nemesis and Tyrant are tanky as hell. Nemesis has a goddamn rocket launcher, and Tyrant can just beat you to death repeatedly. Stun locking is a frequent occurrence when using a monster, both when you're inflicting and being inflicted upon, and yeah, is the most fun you're going to have during the course of Reverse. When everyone is a monster and just happy slapping each other to death, that is honestly when it's at its best, because everything else is just so overwhelmingly mid. I mean, honestly, you only have to play a few rounds of this to identify so many areas where they could have improved, finessed, fleshed out, and they had extra time. Again, this was slated to release somewhere alongside the launch of Resident Evil Village, but no, it was delayed up until fairly recently. This is allegedly the improved version, but did they work out some kind of interesting curve for the virus capsules? No. Did they come up with any compelling way for you to want to actually progress round to round? Not really, unless you count a really threadbare battle pass as justification for continuing to play this, which I don't. It's the most sorry excuse for additional content I've ever seen in any game to feature a battle pass. And, oh my god, then there's the tokens. Oh no, I just remembered the tokens. So at the end of each round, if you racked up enough points, you can then spend them on upgrade coins, which can then be slotted into any of the available human characters. This is, firstly, tremendously tedious. I've never seen anything less involving when it comes to just upgrading your character and potentially giving yourself more of a fighting chance during the course of a match, which you'd think should feel important, but no, a lot of the stuff here just feels very, You got health boosts, you got the ability to maybe pick up a little bit more ammo from ammo pickups, I don't know, what's the other one that stuck out to me? Oh yeah, increased weapon detection radius, specifically for special weapons. Might be a rocket launcher, might be a grenade launcher, you know, that kind of stuff. And the hell of it is, it increases the detection range, so it'll tell you where it is on the HUD. But surely, if you're at the maximum distance, that means everyone else is going to be closer anyway and can already see it and has more chance of picking it up than you. So all that's told you is that you're about to get blowed up by something you can't get. It's very uninspiring stuff. And in all honesty, I'd rather be spending my hard-earned fun bucks on goofy victory poses instead. What makes it all the more tedious to deal with is you have to slot every character individually. Now you might be thinking, well, you don't have to play as every single character, right? Well, if you want to progress, yes you do, because a lot of the progression goals for the Battle Pass involves you switching between characters and using specific moves and doing specific things with them. And honestly, if you want some of the upgrade coins worth a damn, this is what you gotta do. Gotta grind them challenges. You can't just buy them with RP. I'm just continuously fascinated and shocked by it. That this is the result of a big name developer, big name publisher such as Capcom, And this is the dross that they churn out when they've proven that they are more than capable of turning out high quality product. It's just that when it comes to the realm of multiplayer, I just don't think their heart's in it. Not anymore. Certainly not with the evidence that Resident Evil Reverse provides. I wouldn't be surprised if a team bigger than 5 were actively working on this at any given time. They had to contend with the Village DLC, with the upcoming Resident Evil 4 remake, and I think it was kind of doomed from the start. I'd say that there are ways it could be improved, because there are, but I don't think there's any point talking about it because I don't think it will ever be actively implemented. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm more than aware that there is some kind of roadmap available, but even looking at this, I don't really expect anything significant to change other than, well, gee whiz, an extra stage, a handful of extra survivors. Wow, one extra creature? Steady on now, Capcom, you're gonna give me a heart attack with all of this excitement. So yeah, that's about the long and short of it. You may have wondered what the point of me making this video even was. Well, it was entirely motivated by the morbid curiosity I had to check out Reverse in the first place. And I just needed to record this for posterity, you know? Get my thoughts out into the world and just see if anyone shares my perspective on it. Because Reverse, to me, feels like a suicide note when it comes to multiplayer add-on components in the current Resident Evil landscape. It feels like this was a project that was mandated from on high, and they just didn't want to commit the manpower to it. They didn't want to commit the time and the effort. They had bigger fish to fry, but they just wanted this out. They just wanted it out the door. And this is what we get. A subpar multiplayer add-on that feels like it would have been more at home during the 7th gen when every Xbox 360 and PS3 game just needed a multiplayer mode for some reason. BioShock 2? Anyone remember that having a multiplayer mode? Well, it did. But yeah, Capcom, if you're watching, and I'm sure you're rabid viewers of my content, just stick to the single player, yeah? It's for your own good. But anyway, if you made it this far, thanks for sitting through this largely unstructured rant. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.